So I'm going to start this video by saying this. The millennial generation was meant to go through the darker side of life. And I'm going to explain why in this video. As someone like myself who writes a lot of dark philosophy, I find this concept very fascinating, and it's not a coincidence of why I chose to write stories filled with a bunch of dark philosophy, because I feel like it's really important to know. And also too, I feel like it leaves more of a impact to whoever will read my book. And so far, I've had people who read my book. I had written a darker version of a Cinderella story, and so far, the people that I know who've read my book, they all loved it. They all had great things to say about it. And I think it's because that I write from a dark philosophy perspective. I was able to tap into people's shadows, people's creatures, and bringing that up to the surface. And therefore, a lot of people was able to relate to my storytelling. So I find this very fascinating that the millennial generation was always meant to go through that dark side. Now, I don't talk about this a lot on this channel. I talk about this more on my other channel. And on my other channel, I speak on astrology, family, genealogy, and stuff like that. And lately, I've been reading a book called The Astrology of Family Dynamics, going through the whole karmic cycles of families and things that are written in the stars and the way certain planets and everything align. So, in this book, the author talks about the 7 generations right before the year 2040, talking about the boomer generation, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and she's spoken about the millennial generation in one section of her book. And in this book, in this section of the book, she speaks on how people in the millennial generation has Pluto in Scorpio and Neptune in Capricorn. Now, for those who don't know, Scorpio is the darker side of things. Scorpio is the underworld. Scorpio is death and transformation and rebirth. Scorpios go deep on things. They're like the X-rays. They see through hidden truths, right? And Capricorn is the goat. It's the builder, the CEO. Now, Pluto is ruled by Scorpio. So Pluto was in its home when it entered Scorpio. And Neptune is ruled by Pisces. So you had a blend of the dreamy imagination, spiritual side mixed with the building, construction of things. So put those two together. This is a generation that was bound to rebuild a new society because the system has been broken. So our purpose was to rebuild, and still is to rebuild a new society because the old system doesn't work anymore. And when you have to rebuild things, right, you got to go through a bunch of death and rebirths, transformations. And Pluto in Scorpio is also power dynamics. So, with all that being said, this is what we were set out to do. And the thing is, unless you study astrology or unless you're very aware, I don't think majority of people know that this was something that we're like assigned assigned before birth. Like, this is what we were set out to do. And I can see why people in today's world are like very confused. They don't know what to do because it's the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. We're just supposed to rebuild things that have been broken. For instance, the 9 to 5 lifestyle doesn't work anymore. A lot of us are getting our money through entrepreneurship, which really wasn't a thing back then. My father, who was born in like, I think he's a Gen X, either late boomer, like the last year of the boomers, or the Gen X. He told me growing up, he never even heard of entrepreneurship. So seeing me embodying that and writing books and doing what I'm doing, this is different for him. It's a new ball game, a new system. So it's interesting as somebody who writes dark philosophy, I'm writing for a generation and future generations, of course, and generations that's still around, that's before me. But mainly with this generation, I'm writing something that we're all meant to understand and understand dark philosophy. A lot of the way we're moving through life, going through this unknown, not knowing what's going to happen, um, how we're gonna make money. Like, there's so much going on right now. We don't know. The whole politics is all up in the air. It's all up in the air. Um, but you have to keep going. You have to keep going through these transformations, and it can be really difficult. A lot of people are not equipped for this type of lifestyle. If you see me moving around with my arms, I'm getting bit the fuck up. But I'm over here scratching my leg. But yeah, like we was always meant to go through this the whole night of the soul, if that's a saying that I'm trying to think about in my head. But we was all meant to go through the underworld and dreaming of a new system, a new world, and building on that and making it tangible for future generations to come. So, as somebody who writes dark philosophy, I find that really fascinating. And now I feel like my purpose is, of course, it was always bigger than myself. Writing for impact, you have to write beyond yourself, beyond the ego. So, reading what I've been reading from the Astrology of Family Dynamics and understanding that, now I feel like I have more of a purpose that is bigger than myself. So, for those of you out there, the millennials that are trying to come up with ways to do things, and it can be hard because this is not this journey is not meant for the weak. Um, just know that you are on the right path. We are building a world for future generations to thrive in.